Florida State and Duke, the ACC Tournament Championship game. Seminoles won this event in 2012. Duke has won it more than anyone with 20 ACC tournament titles. You look and see when the Seminoles are getting ready, and Zion Williamson standing there, R.J. Barrett, those two guys back together now. Cam Reddish won the game with a jump shot at the end. What happens tonight?
I think Duke still finds a way to win. They're going to need to gang rebound. I think that's the most important thing for them in order to deal with the size of Florida State.
Florida to have a chance, Florida State to have a chance to win this game, they must take care of the basketball, and someone needs to step up. And you know what, Florida State, someone always does step up.
Florida State and Duke. There's Terrence Mann and Leonard Hamilton, the main man. Dan Shulman, Jay Billis on the call. Dan, take it away.
All right, Reese, thank you. They're playing for a championship tonight. And welcome to ESPN's Champ Week, presented by Principal and the 2019 New York Life ACC Tournament.
No matter how powerful you seem, the road can take down the mighty.
Slipping and injured.
The final step to the crown are always the hardest.
Steal by Williamson.
Oh! Whether you're the giant or the giant slayer. Now, man, yes! Florida State.
What a block.
Duke. The ACC crown awaits.
The Spectrum Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina is sold out and really loud again for tonight's ACC Tournament Championship game between the number 3 seed, the Duke Blue Devils, and the number 4 seed, the Florida State Seminoles. This should be a terrific game. Florida State, big, deep. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's start with Duke. Dan Shulman and Jay Billis. And obviously, Zion Williamson has been the story here over the last couple of days, coming back off an injury and looking like he never left.
And what a comeback it has been. It has been dominant and absolutely spectacular. And he's been a playmaker on both ends of the floor. Zion Williamson averaging 30 points per game in this ACC tournament, shooting 81% from the field, and he is scoring paint point after paint point. And it's not just on his offensive end where they're going to him. He creates it off the defense, gets a steal, takes it the other way, off the offensive glass, making plays at both ends. Zion Williamson has been nothing short of spectacular in a way, frankly, we have never seen in this ACC tournament over its 66-year history.
And has put up some monster numbers over the last couple of days, not just big raw numbers, but very efficient as well. And you just saw the game-winning bucket in the semifinal against North Carolina. But Florida State presents a very unique challenge. Leonard Hamilton says, we may not be better than you 1 through 5, but we think we got a chance 6 through 10. They're deep, they're big, they're experienced, and they're just a really good basketball team.
They are a very good basketball team, especially on the defensive end. They've won 14 of their last 15 games. They've got a guy who's 7'4" in Chris Kamaji. Fiandu Kabengele comes off the bench. He's over 7 feet tall. They can block shots, they can change shots, and they can impact the game with their length and athleticism. As you said, 1 through 10. They have more good players than anybody in the league, maybe anybody in the country. They may not have a great player, but they've got good players that can play great.
And remember, third game in as many nights for both teams. Will there be some fatigue for both teams? But Florida State is deeper than Duke. You saw Florida State has won 14 of its last 15 after starting conference play 1-4. They're healthier. They're a better team than they were back in January. As for Duke, 4 freshmen and Javin DeLaurier. And last night we saw Jordan Goldwire and Antonio Vrankovic both play key roles, and they needed them. They needed everything they could get to beat North Carolina.
Well, and they're going to need them again, especially Jordan Goldwire, because of his defensive ability and his athleticism. And you mentioned playing 3 games in 3 days, both these teams. It can be difficult, but when you're as deep as Florida State, you're more likely to be able to absorb that kind of physical challenge.
Duke, an original member of the ACC, they have won 20 ACC tournament titles. Florida State, which joined the league in 1991-92, they have won 1 ACC tournament championship, and it was under Leonard Hamilton. It came back in 2012, and of course these two teams played a great game during the regular season in Tallahassee. A 2-point win for Duke on a Cam Reddish shot basically with time expiring.
Yeah, and also with Zion Williamson not playing in the second half. Remember, he got poked in the eye at the end of the first half, didn't play in the second half after scoring 11 points in the first 20 minutes. And a player to keep an eye on this game is Phil Kofer, who scored 21 points the last time these two teams played. Also had 28 points last year in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Some live pregame thoughts from Leonard Hamilton, who's with Allison Williams.
Coach Hamilton, one thing you have that Duke doesn't is a deep bench. What is the key to managing this game and your substitutions to take advantage of that?
We're going to do the same thing we do all the time. We're not going to change any of our substitution pattern. We're going to try to be who we are. I think the team is going to win the game. The team who come the closest to being consistent with who they are.
It's a championship game. What was the vibe you got from your team during warm-ups and as you broke the huddle?
We don't change very much. Our kids will be ready.
Thanks, Leonard.
All right, thank you, Allison. Really looking forward to this one. Florida State and Duke, as we mentioned, the Seminoles ACC tournament title came back in 2012. They defeated North Carolina in the championship game to win that. And Duke has won 20 tournament titles, including 11 in the last 22 years. Ron Gruber, Ted Valentine, Bert Smith are the officials tonight. And we're expecting a heck of a basketball game tonight here in Charlotte with the Seminoles controlling the opening tip.
How'd you like to be the official that has to throw the ball up for the opening tap with these guys?
With 7'4", Chris Kumaji jumping center for Florida State, and 45-inch vertical Zion Williamson for Duke. Corner three does not go down for M.J. Walker. Florida State, a very impressive 10-point win over the #1 seed Virginia last night, and Duke defeated Carolina by a single point to advance to the tournament final here tonight. R.J. Barrett covered by M.J. Walker, and we've got a travel call as Barrett shuffled his feet as he came to a stop. For Mike Krzyzewski, he has won 14 of Duke's 20 ACC tournament titles. This has always been, he talks about it every year, this has always been a very, very big event. Obviously, there are bigger things to come in the NCAA tournament, but putting up a banner for a championship here means a lot to Coach K.
Well, for a lot of years, the ACC tournament champion was considered the only champion in the league. For many years, there wasn't an ACC regular season champion that was recognized.
Cam Reddish has had, I'm sorry, Jay, a tough couple of nights here in Charlotte. He did play very well against the Seminoles, especially after Zion Williamson went out after he got poked in the eye. Jump stop, and look at the block. No, it's going to be a goaltending call on Kumaji.
M.J. Walker did a nice job initially of staying in front of Cam Reddish, but Reddish does a nice job of driving with his left hand, getting in the lane. No question that ball was on the way down. You're going to see an awful lot of ball screen action in this game, set by Chris Kumaji out top, and then he'll roll hard to the basket.
Which he does, and Williamson swats it away.
How impressive was that?
Terrence Mann, and it's knocked away. Kofer forces up a three, and Kumaji with the easy follow. The Duke bench explodes, saying the ball was in the cylinder when he slammed it home.
Well, if any of the officials were distracted, it was probably because of Williamson, how quickly he got out to Kofer and how high. That was one impressive challenge.
Gamble by Mann, frees up Barrett, too strong off the glass. And down with it, Delorier. They need some big minutes out of Delorier tonight with all the size Florida State has. It won't go down for Williamson, but he'll be at the line.
Kumaji just so big and long. Even if you try to get, nobody got a body on him, and that was in the cylinder. You can tell from up top.
Zion Williamson at the free throw line. Remember, this was a problem for him in a game one in the quarterfinal. He was perfect from the field. Just 2 for 9 from the line. He's 65% on the season, but he has scored 60 points, had 25 rebounds, and 6 steals in the 2 games in which he's played so far here in Charlotte.
And he's such a challenge to guard, not just because of his athleticism, but because of how smart of a player he is. You know, Phil Kofer's been guarding him, at least guarded him on that last possession. And if he plays off him too far, Williamson can take up that space and get going downhill. Then he's unstoppable.
Kofer driving by Williamson, and Delorier knocks it away.
Duke's defense has been spectacular to start this game.
Jones to Barrett for the alley-oop.
Duke has the ability to generate offense from its defense. A lot of their pain points have come in transition.
Forrest up top. Kumaji slams home another one.
If you help up, they are just going to throw the ball right to the rim to Kumaji. He's such a presence when he can set a ball screen and then roll hard to the rim. You have to pick it up, and that's going to open some things up on the perimeter.
Did not start playing basketball until he was 16 years old. 2 years later, moved to the United States, Montfort Academy in Orlando, and obviously a huge presence at the defensive end. Nice look into the corner. And the three won't go down for Walker, and Jones down with a rebound for Duke.
Jones is a good defensive rebounder for a little guard.
Well, he took it right at Kofor, and it winds up being a turnover.
Trey Jones, an excellent passer. One of the top 3 assist guys in the league. And R.J. Barrett, one of the better finishers in the country. And talk about a good finisher. Javin DeLaurier helps up, and when you help up in the lane, they're just going to throw it right to the rim. You know who's always been really good at that is Kentucky under John Calipari.
And Florida State's always had one or sometimes more than one just huge guys in the middle. Michael Ojo was here for a few years. Kumaji now at 7'4". And maybe their best player comes off the bench, another big guy, and Fiondu Kabengele, who was the ACC 6th man of the year.
Kumaji really affecting things defensively.
Florida State in transition, and they can't finish. A good opportunity with numbers, but they can't convert. Forrest will miss it, and it'll be Duke ball. Missed opportunity there by the Seminoles.
Well, and you have to take advantage of that, but even though Florida State is bigger, you know, Duke has some length and athleticism as well. Turnover right off the bat. Just a little full court pressure and a bad pass by Williamson to Jones. It's going to be important for Trent Forrest to really handle the ball effectively when he's guarded by Trey Jones.
MJ Walker gets the bounce and ties the game.
Well, I really like him. He is a good player, good pull-up jump shooter. Got a lot of ability.
Will likely step into a much larger role next year. Of the 11 players in the Florida State rotation, 5 of them are seniors. This is a very, very experienced team. Williamson, nice look into DeLaurier.
Just a little ball screen, and Phil Kofor and Kumaji didn't really communicate, and DeLaurier just slipped to the basket. Nobody picked him up. Got lonely under there before he got the ball. That shows how locked in they are to Zion Williamson.
Williamson on Kofor at this end. Kofor uses a screen, races to the other corner, and then an unforced turnover committed by Florida State.
Well, defense has been the theme thus far. 2 guys on Williamson, but he's a good passer. Finds DeLaurier for the bucket.
Yes. Personal performance brought to you by Dove, and we go back to the only meeting of the regular season between these two teams. Zion Williamson near the end of the first half poked in the eye inadvertently by Trent Forrest and did not play the rest of the game. He had 11 points and 8 rebounds in 17 minutes of court action. It was right down to the wire before Cam Reddish was all alone above the 3-point line and knocked down the game-winning 3 with less than a second to go, as then number 1 Duke beat then number 13 Florida State in Tallahassee by 2. No Marquise Bolden in this game for Duke, of course. Let's go to Allison Williams.
Dan, Leonard Hamilton said that loss to Duke sent his team into a state of depression. Trent Forrest described it as a dark gloom over the program, and it carried forward. After that, they lost games to Pitt and BC. It was then that they had a couple of players-only meetings to just air any grievances and express their frustrations. Whatever they did or said, it worked, because Hamilton said since then they became closer, they changed their mentality, and they went on to win 14 of their next 15 games.
Think about that. Thank you, Allison. Great point. Jay, to win 14 out of 15, no matter if your schedule's front-loaded, back-loaded, this is the ACC. That's an unbelievable run.
It's really an incredible streak that Florida State's been on. They've played extraordinarily well, especially at the defensive end of the floor. But I think Allison Williams' point is a good one. I mean, I think Florida State, and they're not alone here, sometimes you can turn the Duke game into a crusade. And look, it's an important game, but they lost it. They played really well. But, man, they turned one loss into 2 or 3 after that because of the mental outcome of that game.
Well, the Louisville Cardinals said the same thing after their game with Duke when they blew that 23-point lead. Williamson draws a foul inside.
But don't you think like losing a game when you're down 1 is a lot different? When you're up 20-something.
Yeah.
And then cough it up like Louisville did. I can see that scarring you.
Sure.
You know, when you play Duke basically to a draw and lose on an inbounds play, I know it hurts, but that did send them. I mean, heck, they lost to teams that they were way better than right after that.
I like the idea of airing grievances. I think maybe next January we should give that a run. Might smooth some things out for us during conference play. You know, prevent us from having, you know, another bad broadcast, another bad broadcast. Let's keep it to 1. Cam Reddish goes to the bench, and Jordan Goldwire gets a big ovation as he comes in. This is a guy who really was, you know, he was going to Eastern and Kentucky, and he was supposed to be a deep backup behind Trey Jones, just playing a few minutes here and there. And he's taken on a bigger and a bigger role. And last night, Jay, as you know, played 28 minutes, by far the most he's ever played in a game, and really did a nice job on Cam Johnson in the second half of the Carolina game.
Yeah, the only thing that Jordan Goldwire doesn't do right now, he doesn't shoot it. He's 1 of 20 from three-point range. But when he was recruited, Duke didn't even see him play live in high school. They saw him on tape and needed a guard and took him. And I know against Virginia, they were very happy they did.
Nice pull-up jumper by Phil Kofer, the redshirt senior from Fayetteville, Georgia. Brings the Seminoles back within 1. This Florida State team on any given night, as Williamson gets free for his first dunk of the night. A nice find from Barrett.
Well, Phil Kofer was fronting Zion Williamson, and Duke able to throw it right over the top. You have to have more pressure on the passer to take away that vision of the passer, or you've got to have good weak side help behind Williamson.
David Nichols with the ball, turns it over. White ahead to Williamson, 1-on-2. Knocked away, and he runs it down to save the possession. Barrett steps into a 3. And Goldwire chases it down. Jones misses a 3.
Jones has really struggled from the field. He's now 2 of 13 from three-point range in this tournament. 8 of 28 overall.
And just 24% from 3 on the season. Kabengele banging hard. Jones did what he could and knocks the ball away.
Well, he stayed on the floor and went after the ball.
Goldwire with a shot fake and a floater a little bit short. Goldwire's even contributed a couple of buckets here and there in the 2 games in this tournament, although, as you say, not an outside shooter.
Well, he scored 9 points total in the 2 games, but nothing from 3. Every time Florida State drives, they have looked to pass behind. So they're just playing behind the drive. Duke may be able to get a steal if they can catch on to that. You know they've scouted it.
Shot clock running down. Man up top for Kabengele. Knocked away by Barrett.
In the first game, in the first half, there were an awful lot of Florida State dunks. Not quite as many in this one.
Another missed 3, but the ball stays with Duke. Timeout on the floor. Low scoring start. Duke by 3 early.
Let's see
tonight for the championship game.
And here in Charlotte, I didn't know that this until now, that they have one of the largest pub crawls in the country for St. Patrick's Day. 30,000 people.
Wow.
I've only crawled out of pubs with Bill Raftery on St. Patrick's Day.
Let's check in with Allison Williams.
Leonard Hamilton going to his bench again. It's something he will do often, and it's not just for these guys to get minutes, but to get production. They're one of the most productive benches in the country. They convert there in a big way. This is what they do. Consider Florida State's bench has scored over 1,000 points coming into this game. That accounts for 44% of their scoring. Duke, on the other hand, 456 points, just 16% of their scoring. Leonard Hamilton will tell you they've used starters differently at Florida State. His bench is a huge part of what they do.
It's a great point, Allison. They get 33 points per game off their bench this year. And the guy at the free throw line, Fiondu Kabengele, a 3-point play. He's their leading scorer, not off the bench. He's the leading scorer on the team. Didn't start a game all year, the ACC 6th man of the year. And you can see there how much more reliant Duke is on their starting 5 than Florida State is. And to get back to the point of 3rd game in 3 days, will fatigue become a factor for Duke later on?
Yeah, Kabengele only averages 13 points a game. That's not a lot for a leading scorer of a top 12 team. And there are only 2 Seminoles that average double figures, Terrence Mann being the other. And how about the semifinal game against Virginia? As well as Florida State played, but who would have thought before the game If I told you they're going to beat Virginia and do it, I don't want to say handily, but they handled them. And Terrence Mann only have 2 points, and he got them late. You probably wouldn't believe it, but Allison's right. That's the kind of team this is, where you don't know. It's not like you can key on one guy.
The 2 leading scorers for Florida State in this tournament, Devin Vassell in the quarterfinal, David Nichols in the semifinal, and neither of those guys are among their top 5 scorers on the season.
So far in the game, it's been a lot of turnovers. Both teams, they've been coughing the ball up. Florida State spreading Duke out.
Cabangeli being guarded by Delorier. Gray the extra pass to Vassell, and he knocks down the 3. That is his specialty. 43% from beyond the arc on the season, and the Seminoles have the lead.
Well, Vassell was 4 of 7 from 3 against Virginia Tech. Scored those 14 points you talked about in only 16 minutes. That was really good ball movement. An excellent pass by Gray. Because of the way the floor was spread, look how packed in everything is.
Williamson lost it, got it back, kicked it out. Baseline floater for Jones.
I'm not sure that we certainly saw it with North Carolina against Duke. I don't think there was any paint on Carolina's shoes from the 3-point line. Like, they did not guard outside of that 3-point line. They packed it in. I think Florida State is doing the same thing.
Forcing Duke to beat them from outside. Duke shot the ball exceedingly well in their win over Virginia during the regular season from 3. One of their wins over Virginia, but by and large have not been a good 3-point shooting team this season. Williamson with a good defensive play, and on the possession arrow, the ball goes back to Duke.
Perhaps not the best idea to try to turn the corner and go right up in the grill of Zion Williamson. Boy, that is quick reaction time, and it came to a 2-footed stop, and he jumps and was above Gray the entire time.
And Leonard Hamilton said to us pregame that he feels that Williamson impacts the game defensively even more than he does offensively, because the defense can lead to the offense for Williamson.
Well, he impacts it everywhere. There's not aside from shooting threes, he doesn't shoot threes, even though he's 3 of 4 from 3 coming into this game. You know, that's not a strength of his, but everything else, he impacts the game absolutely everywhere.
10 minutes in, neither team really clicking right now offensively. It's a 1-point lead for the Blue Devils. This is the championship game of the ACC tournament. Most people feel with the win last night, Duke is a lock for a 1 seed. As Trent Forrest banks it home, Florida State, in addition to playing for a championship, maybe they move from a 4 up to a 3 or something like that.
Duke switching. Delorier switches off on Forrest, and a really nice crossover as Trey Jones was trying to deal with Cabangeli inside. Just a beautiful move to get an angle on Javin Delorier, and was able to get into his chest and still finish the play. Trent Forrest is another good player, leads this team in assists and steals.
So there's Delorier on the bench, Jay, with 2, sitting beside Marquise Bolden, who again is not playing at all this week because of the knee injury. This is a tough night for Duke to be short on big guys. And this is the kind of situation last night where Mike Krzyzewski went to Antonio Brankovic and got 10 good minutes out of him.
Yeah, he may have to do that again shortly. Brankovic can provide a physical presence. He's not super athletic, but he is big and strong.
Goldwire travels.
You can close out late to Jordan Goldwire. Trey Jones trying to see if he can pick up a foul. Trent Forrest not going for it. He is one heck of a defender on the ACC all-defensive team. There aren't many. I've never seen a freshman defender on the ball as good as Trey Jones. And he got blown by Forrest. He was looking for a screen when he didn't need to. It's got to be called out. But Forrest took advantage of it, read his eyes, just went the other way to his left.
And Cabangeli, the redshirt sophomore from Burlington, Ontario, muscles it in to put Florida State up by 4. Jack White back into the game for Duke.
Look how Florida State's packing it in. Only on Reddish are they going outside the 3-point line.
Yeah, Goldwire, a reluctant shooter. White shot the ball much better early in the season than he has recently. And even Reddish has really had a streaky shooting season.
Streaky, but he'll shoot it and he'll make a lot. And Alex O'Connell coming into the game. He's coming in to shoot it.
Reddish at the line now for Duke. We will cap off Champ Week tomorrow with 2 more championship games here on ESPN. It'll be the SEC title game at 1 o'clock Eastern time as Auburn takes on Tennessee. The Vols off a big-time win over Kentucky today. And then the Air Force Reserve American Championship between the 2 seed Cincinnati and the 1 seed Houston. So what happens here tonight may influence 1s and 2s. The Tennessee win over Kentucky may influence 1s and 2s. I know there are some things still to be decided, Jay, but here's what Joe Lunardi has right now, saying in his opinion right now, the committee would make 3 ACC teams a #1 seed.
Yeah, I think the hay's already in the barn on all this stuff, but if the committee wants to change their minds, I just can't imagine that Kentucky loses 1 game and they drop that far.
Gabangeli's feeling it inside and out as he knocks down the 3. Michigan State, Michigan, they'll play tomorrow in the Big Ten title game as well. So still a lot of big games coming over the next 24 hours.
Boy, what a matchup. Gabangeli guarding Zion Williamson. He's given him some space.
Barrett briefly on the bench, back in now for Duke, and a broken play results in a bucket.
And R.J. Barrett was going to pass that ball until it got deflected, and it turned into the best shot he possibly could have gotten. Little horn set. When you hear that, it means 2 guys at the elbows of the free throw lane, 2 guys in the corners.
And another 3 for Devin Vassell. He's made his presence felt in the early going.
The top 3-point percentage shooter on this Florida State team, 43%.
What a steal. Forrest is off to the races, will lay it in, and it's the largest lead of the game for the Seminoles.
And Florida State getting this done defensively with their length, their athleticism, and their will.
Seminoles up by 8. Let's go back to the studio. Here's Kevin Connors. Now at a performance above, brought to you by Jersey Mike's.
Well, Florida State has had great spacing in the half court, and they are doing a very good job of spreading out this Duke defense. Zion Williamson trying to double team inside to help out Trey Jones, kicks it out for an open 3. And Florida State, as they often do, scoring off their defense. The last 4 games, Florida State holding opponents to 60 points per game, 23% from 3-point range over that 4-game stretch.
You know, it's just a really good team. 13-5 in the ACC this year. An Elite 8 team last year. They got a lot going for them, and they're up by 8 right now as we send it over to Allison.
Dan, Florida State wants to continue the strong play on the defensive end, telling their guys they will give us the ball if you keep playing with our defensive principles. Challenge every pass to disrupt their timing. The other thing, guys, they have to attack the glass so they can rebound and push the pace. They want to make Duke tired. They feel like Duke is trying to rest. They can't let them. They said do not get into a walkathon.
Absolutely. Like Leonard told Allison before the game, they've got to be who they are, and who they are is a deep team that's going to try to wear Duke down.
And that are rallying toward the ball. You know, Devin Vassell rallied to the ball there off that spin move. That's very well scouted on Florida State. Zion Williamson likes to spin, so does R.J. Barrett. When they spin, if you've got a weak side defender or a help side defender that is there sitting on that, that can be really difficult to deal with, especially with the length and athleticism and depth that Florida State can throw at you. Here's that horn set that they've run. There goes the ball screen.
Got a switch. Forrest over White.
Missed it, but a very good shot.
And here goes Williamson.
And that's a very good shot.
It's what we like to call a high percentage look. 6-point game.
Boy, Forrest and Jones are having a good time with each other, trying to put the brakes on here, there, see if they can get the other guy to run into him.
Gabangeli made a 3 earlier. Jones down with another rebound. Look ahead to Reddish. He'll pull the trigger. Missed the 3.
A great pass ahead, and another turnover for Florida State. Florida State worked so hard to get the ball, and they've been giving it away. Was that like a 7th or 8th turnover? But Zion Williamson, he doesn't need much of a gap. And when he can bust through it, he doesn't get to just bust right through.
2 for 3, 7 points tonight. Scored 60 in the first 2 games. Jack White over the back, and Duke, Jay, now 0 for 7 from 3-point range in this game.
Phil Kofer played way off Zion Williamson and basically dared him to shoot it. And with that much space, I think Williamson can get downhill and get into that space. Like, he should just drive right into Kofer. Look, can he make that shot? Absolutely. But I like him driving that much more. You know, put these officials in a position where they have to make a call.
Kabengele with Jones on him right now after a switch. Vassell misses the 3, and Kabengele's going to get called for the foul. By the time I looked away from the shot to what was underneath, Jones was down on the ground. Kabengele's acting like, hey, I didn't do anything, but he gets called.
Just a little discard. I think Kabengele's, maybe he needs a little bit of a blow. I don't know what he's asking about, but that's not a foul. I mean, they're going to say, well, it's a swim move, but it's only a foul because Jones is smaller. And I don't think that's why foul should be called. Difficult situation for the officials, but that's not a foul.
Number 2 on Kabengele. He goes out, and for the first time tonight for Florida State, neither Kabengele nor Kumaji in the game. Kofer is on Williamson right now. Jones for 3, and Duke now 0 for 8 from beyond the arc. Barrett runs it down and tipped out of bounds by Kofer. It'll still belong to Duke.
A great play by Phil Kofer to knock that ball away, because that was a certain bucket if Williamson caught it.
Barrett with a chance for 3.
Trey Jones is such a great passer in out of bounds underneath. And that was a mistake in guarding him. You have to take away underneath the basket and make him pass it to the short side of the floor. And Phil Kofer did not do that. I mean, he was basically playing him straight on. You have to take away the longer side of the floor and take away underneath the basket. There's never a time that should happen.
R.J. Barrett, first team all ACC, really carried Duke after Zion Williamson got poked in the eye and left the game in Tallahassee. He had 32 points in that game, one of 6 games this year in which he scored 30 or more. Here's Williamson gambling, and it pays off as Barrett gets a hold of it and slams it home.
Leonard Hamilton telling his team to calm down. And when Nichols took the ball across half court, he stopped right in the coffin corner and got trapped by Trey Jones and Zion Williamson. And that's a pretty intense trap to be stuck in. When Zion Williamson comes over, he doesn't just come over to trap, he comes over to steal the ball. And his buddy R.J. Barrett, the Canadian, with a beautiful finish.
World full of...
Welcome back now for tonight's Need to Know, brought to you by Principal. And there have been 5 freshmen to win ACC Tournament MVP, 4 of them from Carolina, and our own Jay Will, who won it with Duke back in 2000. And I think if Duke wins this game, it's a fairly safe bet, Mr. Billis, you've been around longer than I have, that guy right there has got a good shot at the MVP.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dan. You are talk about going out on a limb.
Yeah. I'm not scaring you out of your analyst chair, am I right now? So, yeah. Good ball pressure by Jones. Duke's picked it up at the defensive end. They're on a 7-0 run right now. Williamson stays with a Walker. Man, the extra pass. Nichols for 3. Around and out, of the rebound to Barrett as Duke looks for the lead.
A great cut there on the baseline by Terrence Mann. Surprised he didn't shoot that ball.
And Williamson fouled by Walker as Barrett looked right inside to him because of the size mismatch.
And now that means Duke will go to the line. That puts him in the 1-and-1.
Second on Walker. Kabengele on the bench. Kumaji on the bench. That's a big loss. And Kabengele had been in the game a long time, and Leonard Hamilton doesn't play guys for too long because he's got so much depth. He wants to keep everybody fresh. But that second foul feels like it kind of altered things right now. And Duke's going inside often right now since Cabangeli went to the bench.
Not the same kind of rim protection that when you have Cabangeli or Kumaji on the floor. And so Duke trying to take advantage of it to attack the basket. They are certainly not having great success shooting over the top right now.
And tough game for Kumaji when Williamson is the de facto 5 for Duke. If Bolden's healthy and he's in there, or Delorier's in the game, I think a little bit easier of a matchup for a guy like Chris Kumaji. Number 2 on Jack White.
Just the 4th team foul on Duke. Duke's really trying to ratchet up the pressure the last several possessions and have done a very good job of it.
Terrence Mann scoreless tonight. And he's their number 2 scorer on the season, better than 11 points per game. Got Williamson on him right now. Nichols over Jones, left it short. And Vassell comes up with it.
Nichols was taking Kihei Clark off the dribble.
Just took Jones off the dribble, missed the follow. Mann has a foul call, not a block. Williamson called for the foul, and Terrence Mann heading to the line.
And Williamson does not agree. Didn't say anything, but you could certainly see in his eyes as he looked at the official. He differs.
Alert Oregon, which would not get in unless they win that game tonight. If they can beat Washington, somebody on the bubble is falling off. Here's why Zion Williamson was upset when he thought the foul was on him. Because the foul wasn't on him. It was on Jack White, his 3rd, not on Zion Williamson. So that clears that up. White goes to the bench. Goldwire is back in for Duke. And either way, Terrence Mann is at the line now for Florida State. The senior out of Lowell, Mass.
Terrence Mann came into Florida State. Remember, he was in a class with Dwayne Bacon and Malik Beasley. And he's one of 3 players in a class. Phil Kofer, Chris Kumaji, Terrence Mann. They've won more games than any class in Florida State history.
I think that's something a senior would be very proud of, that he could, tell friends and family about as the years go by. And Leonard Hamilton has always said Terrence Mann is about one thing and one thing only, and that's doing whatever he has to do to help his team win. Williamson muscles it up and in to tie the game again.
How impressive was that? He was triple teamed and then got the offensive rebound on the other side of the basket. My goodness. I mean, the quickness and anticipation to get to the other side of the bucket when you're in that kind of crowd. That's yet another thing that makes Zion Williamson special.
Good ball movement by Florida State. Around and out on the 3 for Nichols, and Reddish down with it for Duke.
And Florida State has moved the ball well. And that was better spacing than they've had the last couple of possessions. Got the shot they wanted, just didn't make it.
4 freshmen of the game for Duke right now, along with Goldwire, who had to leave late last night with cramping problems in his legs. Played a career high 28 minutes. Williamson kicks it to Reddish, and it's blocked by Vassell. Terrific defensive play.
Good pass.
Nichols thought about it, didn't take it. Now down to Kofer.
Well, he could have taken. He was wide open.
Now some switches by Duke to get them into a better situation defensively with the shot clock winding down. Vassell blocked by Barrett.
Boy, there's some talent on this floor. You can see Nichols is right in the middle of the lane, not even playing Goldwire.
They go over the top to Barrett. He had Nichols on him at that point, and they capitalize on the mismatch. It's something you haven't seen a whole lot this year is R.J. Barrett down on the post, but he can do that. Nichols, nice look. Man open in the corner for 3.
A good penetration, and Terrence Mann spaced out wide. Forget it. We'll give credit there to Trey Jones for getting the ball down court quickly And getting it to the middle, 2-footed jump stop and a great pass.
And a dozen now for Williamson to put Duke back on top. Forrest. And we've got a foul going against Duke.
Trey Jones pushes the ball up, gets it to the middle of the floor, and a beautiful bounce pass to Williamson, who ran the floor very effectively. Really remarkable. Look, he's got 3 guys around him, muscles the shot up, and then is the first to it. I'm not sure Kofor had hit the deck yet from his first jump. And Kofor's an outstanding athlete.
I don't think Zion Williamson has come out of the game tonight for Duke. I don't think Trey Jones has come out either. Barrett was out very briefly for about 30 seconds, and all 3 of them with heavy minutes over the last couple of nights. Again, Florida State is deeper than Duke. They'll try to use that to their advantage, especially in the second half. Try to wear them down.
That's a ton of minutes. But there's a reason that guy over there is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Who would take those 3 out?
Jones will try another 3. And that's the first made 3 of the night for Duke.
And he has to keep taking those shots. If Florida State's going to pack it in and essentially make it look like a zone, you're going to have to take some of those shots and try to loosen it up. Same thing happened in the game against North Carolina, where Trey Jones had to shoot the ball.
Man drives on Williamson and draws the foul. Coming up in the Audi halftime report, we'll check in with Reese Davis, Seth Greenberg, Jay Williams, get their thoughts on a big-time win for Tennessee in an SEC semifinal game. Oh, look at Jay Will with a young illustrator there.
That's his screensaver. As it should be.
And how about some bids maybe being stolen? One of them in the Mac. Is he your screensaver?
I'm sorry?
Is Jay Will the screensaver on your phone?
No. I can't fit that gigantic ego on my screen. I can't even fit it on my iPad.
First time tonight we see Anthony Polite, redshirt freshman from Switzerland. He becomes the 11th different player to appear in this game for the Seminoles. And we're tied again.
Florida State putting on some full court pressure, 2-2-1, 3-quarter court, at least to slow the advance, if not get a turnover. Gray guarding Williamson. Right on that elbow.
Barrett drives, got it up off the rim, down to Nichols, 4 seconds. Good if it goes. It will not for Raekwon Gray. Right at the horn, we got ourselves a tie game at halftime here with the ACC championship game. Florida State 36 and Duke 36. Williamson and Barrett carrying the offensive load, as has so often been the case for Duke. Florida State much more balanced with their depth. Allison Williams is with Leonard Hamilton.
Coach Hamilton, Duke 1 of 9 from 3. What have been a few keys for you guys defensively?
We've been 1 of 9 from 3 a lot of times this year. The score is 36-36. I think we're in pretty good shape.
How do you get some separation in the second half?
Well, we're going to play better. You know, it's hard stopping Zion Williams. I mean, he's averaging 30 points a game this year. We haven't done a very good job with him, but neither has anyone else. We just got to find a way to win the game. I'm not worrying about 1 from 9, not worrying about how many points you got. The score is 36-36. We're starting over the next half. Hopefully we'll play better.
Thanks, Leonard.
Leonard Hamilton coached FSU to the 2012 BN's Champ Week, presented by Principal, and the 2019 New York Life ACC Tournament. Heading to the second half here in the championship game, all tied up. And for Duke, as has so often been the case this year, Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett really carrying the load offensively. They have combined for 23 of Duke's 36 points. Florida State got out to as much as an 8-point lead. They were shooting the ball very well, but they cooled off in the last few minutes. Duke made a run, and here we are, tied at 36 with a championship on the line tonight. Here in Charlotte, the youthful Blue Devils, the experienced Florida State Seminoles. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Dan Schulman and Jay Billis. You look at the stats. You looked at the game in the first half. Not a lot to separate the two teams right now.
Not at all. Their stats just about identical. I think Florida State's done a little bit of a better job of scoring off of turnovers, but both teams have played very effectively on the defensive end. And Florida State's hit 4 threes. Duke 1 of 9 from three-point range. This is going to be about taking care of the ball and getting quality shots. Duke has been scoring in the paint, and it's been more of a perimeter game for Florida State, knocking down some threes and spreading the floor. But Duke's not going to be able to space the floor. They're going to have to find other ways to score off their defense, because it's being packed in on them.
Let's say hello to Allison again.
Just keep shooting. That's the message to Duke players at the half. After going 1 for 9 from three-point range, associate head coach John Shire said, we just got to keep putting them up. Florida State is daring us to shoot from outside. We got to keep taking them. Eventually, we'll knock them down. As for the difference in numbers of guys, Florida State played 11 in that first half. He didn't notice any fatigue factor. He said there were spurts when both teams looked tired and then showed energy. The biggest thing with the number of guys is knowing who's on the floor, knowing who's a driver, who's a shooter, and making sure you're locked in on your scout defensively.
All right, Allison, thank you very much. A big start here in the second half as Terrence Mann rattles home a 3. And that puts Florida State up by 3. Again, big minutes over the last 3 days for Trey Jones, R.J. Barrett, and Zion Williamson as Barrett drives and draws the foul. Williamson leading Duke with 12 points, had 21 in the first half of the quarter, 16 in the first half in last night's semi, and he has played 91 of 100 minutes in 3 days, coming back off an injury. If you're injured for 3 weeks, Jay, what is your stamina conditioning like when you come back in this kind of an environment?
A normal human being, maybe it's difficult for Zion Williamson. That's a remarkable stat, to play 91 of 100 minutes, to be out for that period of time. It's really amazing.
Jones knocks down the jumper.
In the game against North Carolina, the Tar Heels were playing so far off of Trey Jones. You talk about being dared to shoot. And you know that the Duke coaching staff was telling him, you have to take that shot. And he's been much more aggressive in this game, taking it.
Man driving. Not there. Ball's loose. Belongs to Duke. Jones ahead to Williamson. They play on, and the basket is good to put Duke back on top.
Mike Krzyzewski getting all over the officials that should have been a blocking foul and an N1.
Bill Kofor tried to take the charge. Forrest. Kumaji with the offensive rebound.
Got away with a little discard. Good pass.
Delorier with a rejection on Man. And Duke in transition with a Williamson. Got another one.
It almost doesn't matter how many Florida State defenders are between Zion Williamson and the basket. He just finds his way there and finishes. More points in the paint, but this time coming in transition off a great pass ahead by Trey Jones.
And the Duke fans to their feet here in Charlotte. Duke on a 6-0 run.
And it has basically been off of Duke's defense.
Walker with a high arcing fadeaway that won't go.
A good rebound by Javin Delorier. Kumaji was behind him trying to knock it away. Just couldn't get it.
Barrett to Reddish.
That was a good 3 in transition. Just didn't hit it.
Forrest driving right at Delorier. It won't go, and it's fumbled out of bounds by Kumaji.
Good pass ahead by Trey Jones. Mike Krzyzewski, that's where he wanted that foul, just saying that was a block. I think he was right, but how about that finish over the top of MJ Walker? And then the second one, not just with Forrest, but going right over Kumaji. Forrest, then the tree.
Williamson up to 16 now, 6 of 9 from the field. He's the high scorer in the game again. The drive by Jones, shovel pass to Laurier, and he's fouled.
What a terrific pass by Trey Jones. He saw that all the way, just trying to draw Kumaji to him and able to dish it down to Delorier. That's just beautiful. Really well done. Nice recovery by Kumaji to stop the bucket.
Delorier at the line, number 2 on Kumaji, and he's going to go to the bench. And Fiyandou Kabengele, who was very effective before he picked up his second foul in the first half. He's back in now for the Seminoles. Let's check in again with Allison.
Yeah, guys, Kabengele played just 9 minutes and 30 seconds after getting those 2 fouls. Fouling a big concern for him. He has fouled out of 4 games, and Leonard Hamilton has emphasized he wants him on the court when it matters the most at the end of games. So keep an eye on how he manages his minutes and if he does pick up a 3rd foul.
Well, Allison, he had 24 points and 10 rebounds in that game that these two teams played in Tallahassee. And to have that offensive weapon at his size on the floor is a big boon for Florida State.
Walker, strong drive. Williamson down with a rebound. Look at the pass. What a pass from Williamson to Jones.
Are you kidding? That's a next level pass by Zion Williamson. That's not athleticism. That's just knowing how to play. And a lot of guts to be able to throw that pass. The left-handed bounce pass in stride to his young teammate Trey Jones. Man, that was pretty.
Seven. Zion Williamson, here's kind of a look that he had as he made that long one-handed bounce pass up to Trey Jones, who reversed it in to make it 46-39. And Williamson makes a play he's particularly proud of. You often see him looking down at his left arm or left hand. This time as he walked to the bench after the Leonard Hamilton timeout. He is having another great night. 16 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. And give him some credit, too, for maybe the quiet night that Phil Kofer's having on the other side.
Yeah, Duke's defense overall has been excellent. Florida State shooting just 1 of 7 in this second half. Duke is 4 of 5 for 80%. And Duke has been scoring in the paint. 28-12 is the paint point difference in this game.
Kofer, 16-footer. He needed that. They needed that.
Well, they went to Kofer after the switch. R.J. Barrett wound up on him after Zion Williamson had started the possession on Kofer.
Reddish for 3. And Delorier is going to get called for a foul. Under 16 media timeout here in Charlotte. Championship game of the ACC with Duke leading by 5. Are a Washington fan tonight. Duke up by 5 over Florida State. Over the championship game of the ACC tournament. I think most people feel Duke is safe as a 1 regardless of what happens tonight. Some people feel they'll be the #1 overall seed if they were to win this game tonight. For Florida State, some people have them on the 3, some people have them on the 4 line. Don't forget to check out our alternate angle of tonight's game, the New York Life Above the Rim Cam, streaming live on the ESPN app. Kabengele gets free but can't get the shot off and stepped out of bounds.
But give credit to Trey Jones. He was all over Trent Forrest bringing the ball up, made him pick the ball up and stop his dribble 40 feet from the basket. And that's what helped lead to that backdoor cut turnover by Florida State. You know, the ball pressure from Trey Jones really changes the game in a lot of different ways. That Forrest is thinking more about dealing with Jones than he is about running the Florida State offense.
Williamson with a 17-footer when the lead grows to 7. He's got 18.
And after all of these minutes in the last 3 days, Trey Jones still picking up basically 94 feet. Good pass.
Walker to man. Air ball on the 3. Here goes Barrett one-on-one with Forrest. And gets it to go.
With 4 Seminoles contesting it. Barrett is such a great finisher, especially when he can go toward that left hand.
Barrett now with 13 as the foul is called on Jones.
The pressure that Duke is putting on Florida State is changing the game. Well, maybe it's just 3 Seminoles. Looked like 4, but it wound up being 5 toward the end. But that's pretty impressive to not charge and then get that off the glass past 2 guys trying to block the shot.
Barrett and Williamson on pace to have the 2 highest season scoring averages of any freshman in ACC history. They're just the 4th and 5th to be over 20 points per game, but right now they're 1 and 2 with their scoring averages as a block is called on Barrett. Duke
And
fans not happy.
And Gray got it to go. It just jumped a little bit in front of him and didn't quite have the angle. Well, that was pretty darn close to being a charge. That was a tough call.
And Raekwon Gray, the redshirt freshman from Fort Lauderdale, completes the 3-point play to get Florida State back within 6. Duke has won the ACC tournament 20 times. Florida State, which did not come into the league until 1991-92, they have won it once. That was back in 2012. Barrett for 3.
Williamson got a switch. He had Terrence Mann on him, but passed it back out for the open shot. I was surprised that Williamson didn't just spin off a man, try to get the ball to the rim.
Gray was posting up on Barrett, was disappointed he didn't get the ball. Now off to Cabangeli, turnaround jumper, in and out.
Another good rebound by R.J. Barrett. He is such a good defensive rebounder.
And he draws a foul on Forrest.
Well, there's a long way to go in this game.
Second on Forrest, 3rd on the team here in the second half. It was tied at 36 at the break. Duke up by 6 right now. As you can see, shooting the ball much better than the Seminoles have here in the second half. Boy, Walker right in the grill of Barrett, almost took it away.
Trey Jones plays so low. What pass. My goodness. Just the change of speed with Trey Jones keeping low and just probing and searching and ultimately finding.
He's having a nice night. That's his 5th assist in this game. Gray's going to try to go around Williamson, and Zion Williamson called for the foul, his 2nd.
Watch Trey Jones just probing this Florida State defense and just staying so low against MJ Walker. Got a little ball screen, was about to give the pocket pass, instead just engaged the defender and threw it right through the 2 Florida State defenders. That was just really beautiful execution.
Boy, Cabangeli working really hard for post position, and Delorier is called for the foul, his 3rd. Cabangeli is a physical, highly competitive young man.
He's got very good feet and awfully strong.
Talked about it a little bit in the semifinal. Very lightly recruited. In fact, came out of high school, didn't have any offers, and went to a prep school in Indiana. Was discovered by a member of the Florida State coaching staff at a weekend tournament in Chicago. Redshirted his first year. Dennis Gates, the assistant coach for the Seminoles, who saw him in Chicago. Now a couple of years later, turning into one of the better front court players in the ACC.
Dennis Gates was a really good player at Cal.
Gray no, and Delorier doing some good work on the glass tonight for Duke.
An excellent rebound. He's been rebounding very well in this tournament.
Jones. Is it a goaltend? Yes, it is. Cabangeli pleading his case, but did he touch it after it hit the glass?
It appeared to be, yes. From my angle, that was a goaltend.
Definitely. So the lead continues to grow for the Blue Devils. It's up to 10 right now, as Leonard Hamilton brings in a couple of reinforcements from his bench.
And this lead has been built not off of great offense, but more off of really good defense by Duke. This has been a roll up your sleeves game.
Yeah, they've held Florida State to 8 points in the first 7.5 minutes of the second half. Nichols gets inside rather easily, but then Jack White blocks his shot. Williamson just continues to accelerate, drive to the rim, and he draws the foul.
Well, Jack White has blocked 35, 36 shots on the season. And this one beautifully timed as Nichols gets by him, just goes up and swats it away with the right hand. So with White, DeLaurier, Zion Williamson, you have some good shot blockers on the floor, and that doesn't even count Marquise Bolden, who is out with an injury. He's probably outside of Williamson, the best shot blocker that Duke has.
We have no timetable for his return, sprained knee, so maybe second weekend of the NCAA tournament. If Duke were to get that far, they'd have their big man back. Knocked away by Gray. Here come the Seminoles in transition. Gray giving Florida State some good minutes here in the second half.
Gray needs to get the ball. He's got Trey Jones on him.
Got about 75 pounds on him. Kicks it back out. Nichols misses the three.
I don't know why you'd kick it back out when you've got a point guard on you. Just bully him to the basket.
Jones again.
He is an outstanding point guard. Well, you can say he doesn't shoot it, and he does not shoot it yet. But everything else, you don't see freshmen like him very often, if ever.
Man slips. Barrett takes it away. Numbers for Duke. Barrett the finish.
This has been a defensive clinic in the second half. The younger Duke Blue Devils have taken it to Florida State on the defensive end. This is not a team that looks tired after 3 games in 3 days. They are throwing haymakers on the defensive end and turning defense into easy offense. Beautiful pass. Jones to Barrett.
Taking it to Florida State in a lot of different ways right now. And Zion Williamson's been taking it to the opponents in a lot of different ways the last 3 days, including, Jay, on a couple of occasions in this tournament, showing off quite the throwing arm.
But it wasn't like he had to step into that one. He stepped into this one a little bit and caught Trey Jones right in stride.
Boy, he gambled like crazy to try to come up with a steal on that play. That would have been a breakaway dunk had he come up with it. If he is fatigued at all, if Barrett and Jones are fatigued at all, they are not showing any signs of it.
The only way that Zion Williamson is going to get fatigued is by carrying all those trophies.
Gray. And nothing going down right now for Florida State.
That's 3 of 15 in this second half that Duke has held Florida State to. Well, this has just been an excellent defensive performance by the Blue Devils. And what a game Trey Jones has played on both ends of the floor.
Williamson spins. The ball winds up in the hands of White, but you can see they're defending him knowing he wants to spin back to his right shoulder. Jones can't finish on this occasion.
Florida State has numbers.
Cabangeli for 3. Boy, did they need that.
Florida State's going to stage a comeback. They need to start it now.
Midway point of the second half with an ACC championship on the line, and Duke leads Florida State 58-47. Game was tied at halftime. Jones slips and then gets tied up. The possession arrow will keep it with Duke. Tomorrow, our NBA Sunday Showcase game on ABC features 2 of the NBA's biggest stars, Joel Embiid of the Sixers and Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Bucks. Coverage tips with NBA Countdown at 3 Eastern. Bad news for the Bucks with a Malcolm Brogdon out indefinitely with an injury, but as Jay pointed out to me at halftime, he still thinks Virginia deserves a #1 seed.
Yeah, I don't think Malcolm Brogdon's injury will affect Virginia's #1 seed.
Williamson got one thing on his mind, and that's getting to the paint. He draws the foul.
It's like trying to stop a runaway freight train. Zion Williamson, so explosive and strong, goes right into the body of Cabangeli. Not sure whether Gray fouled him first. That was a take your pick call.
th point of the night for Williamson. 79th point of the tournament. That is the third highest total in ACC tournament history.
By a freshman, and the highest total
freshman, yes,
in a 3-game tournament.
Right. Costner and Tatum both played 4 games.
I bet you Zion Williamson shot the highest percentage any of those guys.
He's at 33 out of 42 right now. He is 79% from the field in this tournament.
So his percentages dropped because of today's game.
7 for 10, and he dropped. Nichols, nice look.
Good pass.
Cabangeli open again, and the big man is knocking him down from the perimeter right now, helping to keep Florida State in it.
Boy, the extra pass has been very effective, and Gray has thrown a couple of those.
Down to 9.
Here's the switch.
Barrett with a long jumper, and the ball belongs to the Seminoles. Williamson deflects it out of bounds.
Gray is a good passer. Saw it on film, but it's even more impressive in person.
Yeah, big guy, but pretty nimble for a guy his size. 8:57 to go, and Mike Krzyzewski will use a timeout. Still to come tonight, the Pac-12 championship game. It'll be Oregon and Washington from Las Vegas, as Peyton Pritchard and the Ducks try to steal a bid if they can knock off the Huskies tonight. Dave Bill Walton standing by.
You know, it's interesting with Washington, if the Huskies aren't able to beat Oregon, will they have to sweat it out tomorrow night? Like, I think Washington should be firmly in the field, but they don't have a lot of wins over NCAA tournament teams.
Right. Do you think Arizona State is safely in?
I don't know about safely. I think they're in. I think they're on the right side of the bubble right now.
Let's get more with Allison.
Molly McGrath covering that game for us, and she's telling me that Oregon's Lewis King is a game time decision. He rolled his left ankle in the game, was hobbled afterwards, and had to receive treatment. They'll see how he looks here in warmups, but that could be a huge factor for the Ducks.
Definitely. Thank you, Allison. If Vassell misses the 3 and it bounces over the backboard to Duke.
Washington's coached by Mike Hopkins, who played at Syracuse and coached for years under Jim Boeheim. They play the same principles in that 2-3 zone, and they've got one of the best defenders in the country, if not the best, in Matisse Thybulle, a senior who has been Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year twice, and just a remarkable player.
And he is one of the 4 finalists for the National Defensive Player of the Year. Zion Williamson is one of the others. Barrett thinking about it, misses the 3. And Vassell the rebound. Florida State about a bucket away from really getting some confidence into making this one interesting.
Surprised that Barrett didn't drive that when he had Cabangeli on it.
Nichols had a big night last night with a 14. Kicks to Vassell. Steps in and left it short.
Tough shot. Gave a little ball fake, and that little short corner jumper, that 12-footer, is a really difficult shot. Trying to isolate Zion Williamson in the post. Got a little up-screen zipper.
Double team in the corner. He gives it up with the shot clock at 6. Little stutter step by Jones, and another layup. He's got 15.
Well, he's a player. At 15 against Syracuse as well. And then had 11 points and 4 assists against North Carolina.
Got 6 assists to go with the 15 points tonight. Having a terrific all-round game.
Just in complete control of what he's doing at both ends of the floor.
Gray with a turnaround over him, too strong. And Florida State gets it back with a fresh shot clock. Cabangeli will try another 3.
Oh, what a rebound.
Out of bounds to Duke.
Well, Trey Jones is an outstanding point guard. Just a great hesitation move, putting it off the glass, high over the defender.
Almost there. Selection Sunday is tomorrow, and here's a look at the tickets that were punched today, including Villanova winning the Big East tournament. Buffalo, the winners of the MAC. We got a couple more tonight. We got a few tomorrow, and then, of course, where a lot of the intrigue will be is the at-larges and who gets seated where. So you and everybody else are headed up to Bristol for the big show tomorrow. Who would be your 4 #1 seeds right now?
Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, and Gonzaga, the same as it was this morning before the games were played. I just don't see how Tennessee beating Kentucky or something like that changes anything as to who you think the 4 best teams are.
So in your mind, wave off the basket, regardless of whether Tennessee wins tomorrow, regardless of who wins the Big Ten, regardless of who wins this game tonight, the 4 you just said are the 4 you think should be the #1 seed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you think now, yesterday Joey Brackets and all the other bracket gurus had Gonzaga as a #1 seed, right? So who's going to prove they're better by playing tomorrow? Like, you've already seen Michigan State beat Michigan twice. So if they beat them a 3rd time, now they're better than Gonzaga. If they're better, they were better yesterday too.
You want me to play devil's advocate, or
yeah,
body of work? There's some eye test, there's body of work, there's net, and there's
well, unless your
analytics being used.
Unless your eyes were closed yesterday, the eye test isn't going to change from one game to the next.
All right. So you would have both Kentucky and Tennessee as 2 seeds.
I would.
Okay. #1 overall seed.
I had Virginia there. I'm told that Duke, if they win this game, will be the #1 overall seed. That is not as important to me, but I think Virginia during the course of the year. Now Duke beat them twice, so I think you could say, okay, well, you have to put Duke in there. But the body of work, and that's one of the things when they say total body of work, I don't think they really mean it, because then they start talking about, well, non-conference strength of schedule. What does that have to do with anything? If it's total body of work, what difference does it make?
Well, then you also get into the conversation. If you look at Duke doing well since Williamson came back,
that's a different deal.
Right. Do you then give them a bit of a break on how they did when he was injured?
Well, every one of the committee members may and can vote differently. But I think there has to be rules for that. There have to be procedures for that. I don't think you can just sort of do that all by feel. It's either your record is what it is, and you kind of say, hey, don't get hurt. Because what about all the teams that have had guys that played when they were hurt and weren't at 100%?
Barrett to Delorier, blocked from behind by Cabangeli, but it stays with Duke with 9 on the shot clock.
Well, it's really remarkable in this game how well Duke has scored in the paint and how well they've protected their paint. This is a very good defensive team. Another easy opportunity that was erased by Cabangeli,
who's having himself a heck of a second half. The follow will go for Terrence Mann, and it's down to a 7-point lead.
And Mike Krzyzewski telling his team, calm down a little bit, wants them to run something. Just a great block by Cabangeli to start that break, as that looked like it was going to be an easy bucket for Williamson.
Another turnover. Cabangeli wants it. He was open for a 3, but he got it too late. Jump stop, left it short, man the rebound, and Florida State starting to win some of the hustle plays right now.
There's still a long way to go in this. 5.5 in regulation.
Forrest one-on-one over Jones, and a foul.
Well, that looks familiar. That's what Florida State did to Virginia when Kihei Clark was on defense. It's a lot more difficult, I think, to do it to Trey Jones, but Trent Forrest just backed him in, and there was no help.
6'5", 210 against 6'2", 183. Let's go to Allison.
That's 3 consecutive possessions we've seen Florida State attack the basket, and during the last timeout, that's what Leonard Hamilton was imploring his team to do. He said, you have to go at them. You have to drive. You have to be aggressive. Initiate that contact. Don't drive around them. Drive through them and go in there fearlessly. His guys have obviously heard the message.
That's a great point, Allison. The straight line drive instead of the angle drive that allows a shot blocker to come over and challenge. And you're more likely to pick up a foul if you initiate that contact on your primary defender.
Florida State has scored the last 6 points to get back within 5.
Cabangeli playing way off of Delorier. That means he can be a screener. Wow, what a finish by R.J. Barrett.
A tough bucket for Barrett. He's got 17.
So creative in his ability to get shots around the rim.
19 for Williamson, 17 for Barrett, 15 for Jones. A quiet night for M.J. Walker. He's got 4. He's got 6.
One beautiful finish deserves another. That one against R.J. Barrett with the left hand off the window. Well, M.J. Walker is such a talented young player, and he's going to keep getting better.
Floater by Reddish won't go, but he's fouled.
R.J. Barrett is as good of a finisher as any wing in the country. And as you've pointed out, Dan, every time he goes to his left and Mike Krzyzewski puts him in actions to get him to his left hand, he is one of the best finishers you will see in this game. And M.J. Walker showing him that that is not exclusive to Canadians.
Reddish knocks it down, his 7th point of the night. Still 4.5 minutes to go, and Florida State has cut into this deficit. A couple of big free throws for Reddish.
Well, Florida State is down 7 after all the problems they've had finding buckets in this half.
Walker with a burst of speed. Very difficult shot. Man got it. He thought Cabangeli was going to cut to the basket for that pass, but Cabangeli was retreating.
Jones read it. Cabangeli did not.
Boy, man was just distraught that that happened. Reddish and another block by Cabangeli. His 3rd. Under 4, 7-point game here for the ACC championship. Here in the second half, Duke led by as many as 14, but Florida State getting back into it. Fiondu Cabangeli knocked down a couple of threes. He's had a very nice second half. They've driven to the bucket and scored a couple of times. A good follow here by Terrence Mann. And then M.J. Walker with a very difficult shot. And with almost 4 minutes to go, it is just a 7-point lead right now as the Seminoles try to win the program's 2nd ACC tournament championship. Duke's made just 1 3 in the game. Florida State, as you would expect, with a big advantage in bench points, but points in the paint. Maybe that's the most significant stat of the game right now.
It is. There's no question that Duke has been protecting its paint and scoring in Florida State's. And some of those points have come off the defense. The Duke defense in the second half has been really inspired.
And again, heavy minutes for all 4 freshmen for Duke tonight, with Williamson and Jones at 36, Barrett at 35, Reddish at 33. The force by Jones won't go, and it belongs to the Seminoles. And a foul on Zion Williamson, his 3rd.
And it also puts Florida State at the free throw line. It's not a good possession out of the timeout. Not sure R.J. Barrett knew exactly how much time was on the clock when he gave the ball up. He basically threw a hand grenade with the pin pulled out to Trey Jones, and he had to just get it up off the rim. M.J. Walker probably got away with a little push before he got that rebound. Then Zion Williamson came in and fouled him.
Again, number 3 on Williamson. Walker's a good free throw shooter, 78% on the season. 1-1 for Florida State.
You have to expect that if these free throws are made, Florida State's going to come with a little bit of full court pressure. Leonard Hamilton not only looks the same as when he was 35 years old, he's just unflappable.
Yeah.
I wonder what makes him mad.
You and I are so flappable. We're so envious of Leonard. So. We had a great chat with him yesterday. He's talking about his path from Oklahoma State to Miami to Florida State. And, you know, he's got to do things a little bit differently. Gets good players generally rather than a lot of one-and-dones. And has to make it work with depth and hustle and hard work. And meanwhile, it's number 4 on Zion Williamson.
Well, give credit to Terrence Mann. I did not think live that this was a charge. But that That drive put the officials in. You know what? He had initial guarding position, moved to maintain it. Difficult call to make, but hard to quarrel with.
So Williamson playing with 4. What an adjustment in midair, but it won't go down for Cabangeli.
Didn't get it to go, but Florida State has to continue to attack the basket, especially with Williamson with the 4. There's still plenty of time in this game. Not guarding Delorier at all, so he can be a screen. That's an offensive foul.
And it gets called.
Boy, that was not a smart play by Javon Delorier. He's not being guarded. All he had to do was pass the ball and then go set the screen. But anytime you get into a handoff situation, you take out that defender, that's going to be called an offensive foul.
And that's number 4 on Delorier.
You got to drive Williamson every time.
Walker knows it, but stops.
See, the drives are coming without any movement of the defense.
Floater by Forrest, no. Tipped up, no good, and Barrett has it for Duke.
If Florida State's going to have success driving the ball, they have to move the defense first. But these drives have come from a stationary position. They're going against a set defense.
Jones gets around Forrest, pulls it back out with 15 on the shot clock.
Watch how low Trey Jones plays. Low man wins in basketball.
What a possession. All of it, Trey Jones to extend the lead to 9.
He just played with more leverage and got down lower than Forrest.
Inside 2 minutes to go. Walker for 3.
Terrible shot. Duke can use some clock. Florida State's going to have to start fouling. I don't think they have a choice. They don't have enough time. Duke's going to run it out on them.
Looks like they're going to play out this possession down to 10. Jones looking for help, finds Delorier. Shot clock's at 3. Reddish puts it up, and it goes.
End of clock when it seemed like the possession was getting away from Duke. The ball goes to Cam Reddish. And he immediately catches and shoots with Vassell right on him. And that could be the dagger. Trey Jones staying low to the ground. And the low man wins. And he's been the low man all night long. Trey Jones has had an outstanding basketball game from the point guard position.
He's been the best player in the game, don't you think?
Well, he's played it really, really well. I'd still give it to Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Let's not get crazy, Dan Shulman. But Trey Jones has been outstanding all game long, and his defense has been game-changing. But he has been in complete control of this Duke offense and defense. He has pointed the pressure, and he has been the key decision maker on most every possession. Playing under control and changing speeds. And after Cam Reddish knocks down that 3 that could basically have decided that, look at the emotion from Trey Jones. His brother Tyus showed similar emotion in 2015 when he led a group of freshmen to the national championship. Trey Jones could be primed to do the same thing.
Still to come tonight, Washington and Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Washington, the #1 seed, the regular season champ. Oregon, the 6th seed in the Pac-12, trying to steal a bid. The Ducks need to win it to get in. Boy, it was a 7-point game. About a minute and a half ago, Walker was at the line for the front end of a 1-and-1. Could have been a much different situation. Duke went down, scored a couple of times. Cabangeli, no. Duke ball again.
Well, even though Florida State is bigger, Duke has done a better job of blocking shots and challenging shots in the paint. Well, what a difference in this Duke team with Zion Williamson back on the floor and healthy.
The Blue Devils went just 3-3 without him, including the first Carolina game when he went out in the first minute. So 3-3 without him, and if they win tonight, 26-2 with him.
Yeah, without Zion Williamson, Duke was just your garden variety top 10 team with a chance to play in the Elite Eight. With him, they very well may be the best team in the country. But still shorthanded without Marquise Bolden. That is a significant injury to have a shot blocker, shot changer, and rebounder unavailable. But look at these numbers. And the efficiency, 7 for 11, 13 of 19, 13 of 13. That's like video game stuff.
Knocks them both down. Florida State, an Elite Eight team last year, and they're probably looking at something like a 4 seed. They'll find out their fate like everybody else will tomorrow, as a foul is called. It's a pretty good team to be, for lack of a better way to put it, the 4th best team in the conference. Virginia Tech is right there with Florida State. They're a really good team as well.
Yeah, if Virginia Tech had Justin Robinson, the Hokies would be a top 10 team. They were with them.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're looking at a league that at the top, there's no league as good as the ACC at the top. Nobody. Now you can say other leagues are more balanced and maybe all this top to bottom business, but there are more championship contenders in this league than any other.
And this league figures to get at least 2 and possibly 3 #1 seeds.
You had 2 teams in this league that won 16 regular season games. One that won 14, Duke, and then Florida State won 13.
Yep.
And that's dealing a lot of losses to the bottom half of the league. And the bottom half of the league is not, I think, as bad as their records seem to indicate, their conference records, simply because the top of the league is so good.
You wonder if this is the year when we see something that nobody's ever seen before. If North Carolina and Duke wind up playing each other somehow, some way, somewhere in the NCAA tournament. If it were to happen, obviously we know it would be very late in the tournament, at the earliest, the Elite Eight. But does this season deserve a round 4 between those two programs?
I think every year it deserves a round 4. It almost happened in 1991 when both teams were in the Final Four.
Out of bounds.
For Duke to hold this Florida State team to 60 points is an excellent defensive effort, and even scoring 73. I mean, the last 4 games, Florida State is holding opponents to 60.
Yep. Just a dominant second half performance by the Blue Devils, and this youthful team will claim an ACC tournament championship. It'll be the 15th for Mike Krzyzewski and the 21st for the Duke program. And you can hear how that's going over right now at the Spectrum Center here in Charlotte, as it looks like the Blue Devils will take a shot clock violation here in the closing seconds.
The acceptable turnover.
Yes.
Gives you another second to enjoy a tremendous job to win 3 games in 3 days against this type of competition.
And relying so heavily on a small core group of players to do so much of the heavy lifting. That shot will count. Still 0.2 of a second, so they just got to inbound it to end it. Pleasantries being exchanged between Mike Krzyzewski and Leonard Hamilton. Both will find out their fate tomorrow on Selection Sunday. And congratulations to the Duke Blue Devils, the ACC tournament champions for the 21st time. Heavy minutes for all 4 freshmen, playing virtually the entire game tonight, their 3rd game in as many nights. And Duke defeats a very good Florida State team 73-63 to win the tournament championship. And now we'll find out tomorrow if they're the #1 overall seed. Certainly they're going to be a #1 seed of some description. And we'll find out where they're going and who they're playing along with everybody else when their fate is revealed tomorrow. A tough loss for the Seminoles, but remember, an Elite Eight team last year, all kinds of experienced players, and perhaps primed again for another deep run of the NCAA tournament. But the moment right now here in Charlotte belongs to the Blue Devils. And again, as you said, Jay, just a couple of minutes ago, what a difference it makes. And when you're talking about the presumptive National Player of the Year, what a difference it made for Duke to get Zion Williamson back for these 3 days.
There aren't enough superlatives to describe Zion Williamson, but especially how he played coming back from an injury that really kept him out of competition for, what, 5-6 games in basically 3 weeks. Yeah. And you just can't come up with enough words. He is one of the best players I've ever seen, and there has never been a player like him in college basketball ever.
He's about to add an ACC most outstanding player, you would think, to all the other accomplishments from this year. Here he is with Allison Williams.
Thank you guys very much. Here with Zion and RJ. Zion, I'll start with you. After being out for 3 weeks, what have the last 3 days meant to you to be back with your brothers?
It meant the world. Like I told you 2 days ago, for the people that thought I wasn't going to play, I mean, they're entitled to their own opinion, but I love my brothers. I love Duke, and I mean, this is a dream come true. We're going to do.
RJ, as you guys celebrated at midcourt an ACC tournament championship, what are the emotions?
I mean, it's great. We've been working all year, you know, and to get this just feels amazing.
You two, along with Trey and Cam, made a decision to come to Duke back in October. As this journey has progressed, what does it mean to you to see it culminating, at least in the ACC season, with the tournament championship?
I mean, we want to be a part of something special. So shout out to Trey who started all this, and, you know, to see us come this far and win the ACC championship, I mean, ACC is one of the strongest conferences, so it means a lot to us. And we're just glad we could be a part of it.
RJ, what has it been like for you to develop the relationships you have with guys like Zion and Trey, and then to have it pay off on the court here in a championship?
It's been great. You know, we call it the brotherhood for a reason, and you can tell on the court our chemistry is just, it's amazing.
It's March. Duke is always about March and the postseason. What is the mentality once you guys hit the postseason?
Killer's kill. Killer's kill.
RJ, how has the experience in this tournament setting set you guys up for the next?
I mean, it's been great. You know, we're going up against, you know, top teams, so really sets us up for, you know, what's to come.
Congratulations, guys. Enjoy this.
Pretty special seasons for those two freshmen so far, and the rest of the Blue Devils, as Mike Krzyzewski has won his 21st ACC tournament championship. And the biggest games are yet to come for the Blue Devils. A lock to be a #1 seed, perhaps the #1 overall seed. Again, as they'll find out tomorrow on Selection Sunday. 73-63, Duke over Florida State. Williamson with 21 tonight. He averaged 27 points and 10 rebounds per game in the 3 games in which he played here in Charlotte. And we're just moments away from the obvious, which is him being named the most outstanding player. And we are told officially it has been done, although it hasn't been announced to the crowd, but he has been named the most valuable player here for the ACC tournament presented by New York Life in Charlotte. It's always meant a lot to him to come here and compete and not just set themselves up for the best seeding possible, but to win a championship, get a banner. And they've done it here. Duke 73, Florida State 63. Congratulations to the Blue Devils. For Jay Billis, Allison Williams, and our outstanding crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching.